So this is getting close, at least on one side. I've been chiseling at this for a while now, digging bar work. Yesterday it was so hot I actually got heat stroke, passed out. So today it's raining and cool and lovely, but I'm not working because I'm still feeling the effects. Anyway, the issue here is, of course, you have the water that starts up its journey up at the top of that hill way up there, and it comes down here bringing all the water and the mud from the gravel with it and dumps it right here. And before, that high spot there was the lowest spot in the driveway, and right about here where this carpet and this hole is was at the same level as that bank there, which I have dug out completely with a digging bar and a shovel. So, yeah, there's been some work. Anyway, the next layer is going down at least for half of this, so I've got the carpet down. Okay, that keeps the big gravel from sinking into the mud when you drive across it, which is what happens to all my neighbors up there. All my neighbors, well, I got 3 neighbors on this road. 2 own backhoes, 1 owns a garden tractor with a back blade, and every winter they scrape all the gravel off the driveway in an attempt to plow it, and then in the spring when it turns to mud, they spend thousands of dollars in gravel and machine time to fix it again. So I'm trying to avoid that here. So the concept is to try to get it so you get enough water coming down the road away from where the gate's going, so that it keeps and moving at a fast enough rate so it keeps the mud in suspension. So the idea is by the time it gets here, it should be moving pretty quick, and it is, because that field generates a lot of runoff that comes right here and straight down, and that's why it's deeper there and tilted into the ditch close to the edge where you won't be driving. And then over here, I've been taking all this excavated dirt from here and using it to build up this side of the road so that I can tilt it, which I've been doing manually. And that's all the clay dug from here, mixed with pine needles and compacted into like an adobe. And then along the sides of it is coarse gravel and with big stone like that underneath it, so that even if they drive up on the embankment with a loaded cement truck in the beginning of spring thaw, they're not going to sink. So, and then of course this whole thing is carpet, and as the water rushes down this, my hope is to tilt it so it goes to the inside, where I'm eventually going to put a gutter. But right now, when it rains well, it runs down here really fast, and I've got it to go into this hole here rather than straight down the center of the driveway and creating a mud pit there. So now the mud and water comes this way, and because I've removed gravel and more mud and clay has been chiseled out of this as well to go to the various places that need to be leveled, I've got the water pretty much going there rather than the middle of the driveway. But I still have quite a bit that's dumping here that comes in, and then you have people that are drive 3.5 miles up the dirt road to come a third of a mile down a dirt driveway in spring, and they usually have mud on their tires. So I want that to go away as well. So the idea here is the water coming down here should fill that trench and get it moving fast enough so that when it hits the end of the culvert pipe I'm going to put in here, it'll come across to this path, and all the dirt that comes through the carpet and through the gravel and goes this way after I pitch this road steep enough will come across here, and it'll blow out onto this path and then dump all its mud, rather than dumping the mud somewhere we have to drive. So anyway, this is what I've been working on, and I'm getting close. This will be done pretty soon. On top of this, I'm going to put another layer of carpet, and then I'll put the fine gravel. That way there's plenty of void there, and the water should keep moving and self-clean the non-permeable layer, which is this carpet underneath, that is going to be packed with clay, basically waterproofing it. So there you go. That's the idea. Over here, eventually, I'm going to need to chisel more out here, but this is easier to work on. It's the big areas like here, this bakes like to clay, because around here, I'm in the middle of a clearing. So after it turns to mud, okay, the sun comes out and bakes it basically into pottery. Okay, you can bounce a digging bar off of this once it gets, nice and dry and sunny out, which is like what it was yesterday. Anyway, it takes usually 2 or 3 days of rain, even if it's a light sprinkle, to kind of soften it up again, where you can even get the digging bar through it with any kind of reasonable success. So anyway, if I get that done, so far, if I get about a 1/4 inch of rain, I get close to 500 gallons of water in this hole. Okay, it's all full of mud, and I haven't got the rest of the stuff to silt, get the silt out of it yet. Okay, I'm still working on getting the culvert pipes in and doing some of the digging, but I am getting close. I think by the end of this summer, I should have this ready to be producing water for next spring. So that's where I'm at. My thought is that also by berming like this, I'm going to be planting things on all these. The idea is every one of these berms will have trees and bushes on it, but also everywhere there's one of these berms, the soil is I can dig through this soil without having to use a digging bar. I mean, it's reasonable. So it's very easy for me to bury sprinkler pipe, Ethernet cable to feed security cameras, a line for 12 volt, the intermittent 12 volt line, that comes off my solar array to charge batteries that are buried within the mound, that run the sprinkler control valves and the, security cameras, or maybe automatic gate controller eventually, or whatever, whatever ends up going in here. Basically, I can now start wiring this thing for sound, little Wi-Fi routers and such, and ham radio gear that'll be hooked to Raspberry Pis in the trees, can have Ethernet cable going to the ground. And anyway, there's all those things, but it all starts with basically grunt work, which is what I'm at now. It is paying off, though. Wildflowers, as you can see, are starting to come. I'm actually starting to get some dandelions, which I deliberately planted. You see the fluff there. I think tomorrow, after the rain, I'm going to go through again, and I usually take the dandelion fluff and pull it off, and then I walk upwind so that they can be planted upwind, and then they'll naturally seed the whole field until I've got lots and lots of them in here, because they have nice deep tap roots, and they should make this ground a little softer and kind of reduce the amount of runoff I get. So, and also by shading the ground, it should hold more moisture, and then by putting trees around like each of these little rooms, okay, it'll shade the ground again, holding more moisture. By the way, these berms here, these back berms, are all planted with potatoes right now. My hope is that the straw will hold enough moisture in the soil to make them grow without irrigation, but eventually I'm thinking about putting drip tape, which is like miniature soaker hose, down the top of these berms and just irrigating that only. And that should help the trees grow, or whatever I put in here. But eventually I'm going to keep building these until they're tall enough they make me happy. And once that happens, they'll stop being used for growing like vegetables and stuff and being tilled over, and that's when the trees and bushes go in. So anyway, this is what I'm working on. Hard, back-breaking work. But I have my own gravel pit, and none of this is costing anything except back pain and sweat. So anyway, a lot of times after a rainstorm I walk up and down these to compact the pine needles and clay so they become harder and hold the gravel better. Eventually the back side of this will be compost and other things I can actually grow a tree in, but right now I just need something to retain the gravel so the gravel stays where the gravel belongs and the dirt and grass stays where dirt and grass is good. That way lawnmowers can function and things like that. Anyway, that's it for this episode of Gardening with Don.